So for our topic, ang topic natin today is the limits and continuity. Let's start with the rules for limits. So we have the rules for limits. So isa-isahin natin siya. Yung una nating rule is yung constant rule. Wherein if k is a constant rule or yung real number, we have the limit of k, x where x is approaching yung a is equal dun sa k lang din siya. Later, yung mga examples natin, i-discuss natin yan isa-isa. Then second natin is yung sa second rule natin is yung limit of x rule where yung sa limit of x natin is equal sa a. And for the following rule, we can assume that yung limit natin ng f of x and g of x both exist. Then for number 3 natin, for the sum and differences rule, so we have the limit where the function of x plus or minus g of x equals the limit of function of x plus minus limit of g of x. For the product rule naman, we have the limit of the function of x multiplied by the g of x equals the limit of function of x multiplied by the limit of g of x. For the 5 or for number 5 quotient rule natin, for the limit where we have the function of x over the g of x is equal to the limit of function of x over the limit of g of x, provided na yung g of x natin is not equal sa 0. Kasi kapag nagkaroon tayo ng 0 na denominator, wala tayong makukuhang sagot or undefined yung value. For our first example, so ang problem natin for the example number 1 is hahanapin daw natin yung limit ng 3 plus 2x. Wherein yung value natin ng x is 4. So sa solution natin, we have the limit 3 plus 2x, wherein yung x natin is 4. Gagamitin natin dito yung rule number 1. So sa rule number 1, we have the limit of 3 plus yung limit natin ng 2x, which is yung sa rule number 4 natin. Then after nun, we have yung value ng 3, since ang constant na value is yun pa rin naman yung ilalagay natin. So we have the 3. And then since we have dito is 2x, so magkakaroon tayo ng product rule, which is meron tayong limit of 2 and limit of x. Then after that, yung value lang nung 4 or yung x natin is papalitan lang natin dito. So we have the 3 plus 2 times yung 4, wherein equivalent siya sa 11. Itong 4 natin is value lang limit of x natin. So yung value kasi ng x natin is 4. So kaya yung x natin dito is limit of x natin. So babalikan natin yung rule natin ng number 2. Ano ba yung rule natin ng number 2 kanina? So balik natin ha. Ayan. So meron tayo, di ba, ang limit of x is equal to sa a. So sabi natin kanina, meron tayong yung x natin is 4. So ang magiging value niya, yung x natin is equivalent sa a. So we have 4. Ito po siya. So next natin na example. So meron tayong example number 2. So ang sabi naman dito, we have the limit of 3x squared where yung x natin is 5. So for the solution, we have the limit 3 x raised to 2 is equivalent dun sa limit of 3 natin multiplied by dun sa limit of x squared natin. So quotient rule yung ginagamit, product rule yung ginagamit natin dito. Then next po, since meron naman tayong limit of 3, ito yung magiging value niya, which is yung 3. And then itong x squared is pwede natin siyang hatiin sa dalawang x. Kaya we have the limit of x times the limit of x. So sabi natin, yung rule natin before, kapag yung value ng x is equivalent sa a, so we have the x as value ng 5. Kaya magkakaroon tayo ng value ng 5 dito and another 5 since naka-x squared tayo kanina. So we have 3 times 5 times 5 equals 75. The next natin is sa polynomial naman. So, meron ulit tayo na rule pa rin para sa polynomial. Ito yung rule natin. For any polynomial function in the form f of x equals kx raised to n, where yung limit of function of x, where x is approaching a, we have k multiplied by a raised to n equals f of a. So, mas maganda maintindihan natin to dun sa example ulit natin mamaya. Ito. So, we have the Example number 3 for this, we have find the limit of 4x raised to 3 minus 6x plus 1. Ang gagamitin nating x is 2. So for the solution, since we have here itong value na to, limit 4x raised to 3 minus nung limit ng 6x plus yung limit ng 1 natin. So rule number 2 pa rin tayo. We have itong part na to, kung mapapansin nyo, pinalitan lang naman yung value natin ng x. Kaya tayo nagkaroon ng x raised to 3. Actually, shortcut lang din. Halos pinapakita dito is shortcut na siya. Yan. So, we have the 4 times 2 raised to 3 minus yung 6 natin. And ulit yung value natin ng x dito, which is yung 2. So, kaya tayo nagkaroon ng 2 dito. Plus, yung limit natin ng 1 is 1. Kapag kinompute natin siya, we have the 21 or yung value natin ng 21. Okay? Diba, kapag meron tayong x raised to 3, ibig sabihin, yung x is uulitin natin siya ng 3 beses. Since ang value natin dito is we have the 2, so ano ba ang value natin kapag minultiply natin ng 3 beses yung 2? Diba? 2 times 2 times 2 kasi naka-raise to 3. So ano ba yan? 2 times 2 is 4 times 2, 8. So for our next example, next rule. Ayan. For the polynomial rule, if p of x defines a polynomial function, then limit p of x is equals to p of a, where yung x natin is yung a pa rin natin. Ayan. Then next natin is yung rational function rule. So familiar naman kayo kapag meron tayong rational. Sa rational is ito yung mga naka-fraction. So we have here the p of x. If f of x defines the rational function, p of x over ng qx with then yung limit natin, f of x is equivalent sa f of a. So parang pareho lang din to nun sa kanina natin, di ba? Sa quotient rule. Wherein yung QA natin, Q of A is not equal to 0. Kasi kapag naging 0 yung denominator natin, hindi tayo makakuha ng value or undefined yung value natin. The next natin we have for the number 8, we have the equal function rule. If f of x equals g of x for all x is not equal to a, then the limit of function of x is equal sa limit ng g of x. So, paano daw yun? And then, ito yung next natin. So, mamaya yung mga examples sa isa-isa lang natin. Isa-isa lang natin yung mga rules. Okay, for the power rule naman, we have for any real number or yung k natin, we have the limit wherein yung function of x is equal raised to k equals the limit of function of x raised to k where x is approaching a, provided these limits exist. Then for the exponent rule, we have here na dapat yung b natin is greater than 0. Kapag ganon, we have the limit b raised to f of x equals sa b, we have the limit raised to the limit of f of x where x is approaching a. Then for the logarithm rule naman, for any real number, b is greater than 0 with b is not equal to 1, provided that yung limit natin, log b of f of x, is equal sa log b with the limit of f of x with x approaching a. And then yung function natin or yung limit of f of x natin is greater than 0. Ito na, yung meron na tayong example. So, ang example number 4 natin, sabi ang problem daw natin is meron tayong limit wherein we have the x raised to 2 plus 2x minus 3 over ng x raised to 2 minus 3x plus 2 wherein we have the x minus 1. Dito, kung itatry nyo siya, napapalitan nyo yung value. For example, gusto nating i-shortcut na lang siya, i-diretso na lang natin siya. Kapag pinalitan nyo ng value yung denominator ng value ng 1, ano ang magiging makukuha yung value dito? Itong value na to. If we have the 1 raised to 2 minus 3 times 1 plus yung 2 natin, ano yung makukuha yung value? For example, di ba, ang kukunin natin is yung denominator. Ano yung rule natin kanina? Sabi natin, yung denominator, kapag meron tayong quotient rule is, dapat yung denominator natin or yung g of x natin is not equal sa 0. If babaguhin natin lahat ng value ng denominator sa 1, ano yung magiging denominator natin? Pwede nyo itong ilagay na 1 raised to 2 minus 3 times 1 plus 2. Ano yung makukuha yung value? Di ba kanina may rule tayo? May rule tayo sa quotient rule. Balikan natin ha, para medyo mas clear. Wait lang. Ito. Same lang to dun sa quotient rule natin. Yung p of x natin, ito yung limit, yung q of a or yung magiging value natin ito, itong value natin na to, yung q of x or yung qa natin is not equal to 1. Kaya, di ba, sabi ko sa inyo kanina, ano yung magiging value kapag pinalitan natin yung mismong denominator natin. Yung a dito is yung value natin na which is yung 1. Balik tayo din sa problem natin. Oops. Ayan. So, sabi natin, we have yung value ng 1. So, itong denominator natin na x squared minus 3x plus 2, papalitan natin yung value nitong x, tsaka itong x natin. So, we have, itong value na to is 1 raised to 2 minus 3 times 1 plus yung 2. Ano yung magiging value natin? Or ano yung makukuha yung value? So, pinalitan lang natin yung value natin ng itong value natin ito. Itong 1. Sa denominator lang. So, para i-check lang din natin. Value. Tama ba yung nakuha yung value is equivalent sa 0 yung denominator natin? So, kapag yung rule natin kanina, di ba ang rule natin for g of x natin or g of a natin is dapat hindi siya equivalent sa 0. Di ba ito yung rule natin kanina? So, ayan. So, ibig sabihin, kapag ganyan yung nakita nyo, dapat maghanap tayo ng other way. So, ito na yung sa solution natin. Meron tayong i-factor out. Kung mapapansin nyo dito, yung numerator natin is, pwede natin siyang i-factor sa x plus 3 at x minus 1. Samantalang yung denominator natin, pwede natin siyang i-factor sa x minus 2 at x minus 1. So, kapag nakuha na natin to, diba, pag yung sa numerator natin is, meron tayong x plus 3 multiplied dun sa x minus 1. Sa denominator naman, we have the x minus 2 multiplied dun sa x minus 1. Since pareho yung value natin, or pareho yung numerator at denominator natin na merong x minus 1. So, ika-cancel na natin sila. So, ang matitira na lang is we have the x plus 3 over x minus 2. So, after that, ito na yung g of x natin. We have the x plus 3 minus x minus 2. And yung pinaka-solution na natin, since we have the value of x as 1, papalitan lang natin yung value natin ng x na 1. So, we have 1 plus 3 over 1 minus 2, which is yung pinaka-answer natin is minus 4 or negative 4. Next is for the example number 5. Ang i-compute daw natin is we have the limit of 3 of x squared plus 5x minus 9. Wherein yung limit natin is x negative 2. So, yun daw yung problem natin. Ayan. So, dito, pwede naman natin i-apply yung mga kanina mga rules natin. So, we have here, hatiin lang natin, we have the limit of 3x raised to 2 plus yung limit natin ng 5x minus the limit of 9. And then, yung application ng quotient and application din ng constant value natin So, apply pa rin natin yun, yung sa value na yun. We have here the 3 limit of x squared plus 5 limit of x minus limit of 9. And then after nun, papalitan lang natin yung value since ang sabi natin, yung value natin ng x is negative 2. Papalitan lang natin siya lahat ng x. So we have here the 3 multiplied by negative 2 raised to 2 plus 5 multiplied by negative 2 minus 9. And yung value natin is negative 7. Then next example natin, we have the limit of 6 minus 3z plus 10z raised to 2 over negative 2z raised to 4 plus 7z raised to 3 plus 1, where yung z natin is 1. So, yun yung problem. Ayan. So, here we have the, pwede natin gamitin, kukunin natin yung limit ng numerator and kukunin din natin yung limit ng denominator. We have the limit of 6 minus 3z plus 10z raised to 2 over nung limit ng negative 2z raised to 4 plus 7z raised to 3 plus 1. Then, after nun, apply na natin yung mga rules natin na na-discuss kanina and papalitan natin yung value ng z, which is ano ulit yung value ng z natin? Yun yung 1. So, we have here the 6 minus 3 times 1 plus yung 10 multiplied dun sa 1 raised to 2 over nung negative 2 times 1 raised to 4 plus 7, 1 raised to 3 plus 1. So, ang magiging final answer natin is 13 over 6. Okay, for our next example, we have here yung application na rin ng sine, cosine, and we have the E and yung ln. So, yung problem natin is evaluate the following limit. Ang given natin na limit is, we have the 5 of x plus e raised to x over 1 plus ln x plus sine x cosine x. So, same lang din dun sa kanina na kukunin natin yung, I think yung value dito is, dapat siya is 3, yung z niya. Since lahat ng ginamit dito is value ng 3. So, kaya nakuha yung value na to. Okay, correction lang yun. Okay? So, example natin dito for the computing limits, we have the limit x raised to 2 plus 1, wherein yung x natin is 3. So, we have the limit x raised to 2 plus yung limit ng 1. And after nun, so itong limit of x natin, since ang x natin is 3, so we have the 3 raised to 2, and sa limit ng 1 is equivalent lang siya sa 1. So we have the value of 10. Okay? Next po natin, for the example number 1, so evaluate daw yung following limit. So we have here the limit x squared plus 4x minus 12 over the x squared minus 2x, wherein yung given natin na x is 2. Okay. So kung mapapansin niyo dito, dun sa given natin na value or yung given natin na example, di ba sabi ko kanina is itatry natin muna yung denominator. So if we will going to use yung x na, papalitan na natin kagad yung value ng x. Ang makukuha natin na denominator is 0. Yan. Same lang din sa numerator na 0. So, kapag ganun yung nangyari, wala tayong makukuha value or given na undefined na siya. So, i-apply ulit natin yung factor out natin yung numerator, both the numerator and the denominator. So, for the x squared plus 4x minus 12, we have the x minus 2 and x plus 6. So, nakuha siya kasi kapag minultiply mo yung 6 at saka yung 2, makuha natin yung itong value, yung 12. And then kapag naman dito sa in between naman, ito is kapag in-add or either add or minus siya, makuha natin yung positive 4. Kaya dito is mas positive yung 6 natin since mas malaki yung value nyo. Then yung x is multiply lang itong dalawa. Ganun siya. Okay? Then dito, since dalawa naman, since meron siyang parehong x, Nilabas lang natin dito yung x and we have the x minus 2. Okay? Then after nyan, since meron naman tayong parehong value ng x minus 2, kakancel na natin tong dalawa. Itong part na to, x squared at saka 2x natin. Di ba pareho sila na merong x? Isang x, dalawang x dito and meron tayong isang x. So kapag nilabas natin yung isang x, ano na lang yung matitira? Magkakaroon tayo ng isang x na lang dito kasi nilabas natin yung isa, di ba? Tapos, minus, nung itong value na to is isa lang yung x niya, nilabas na natin yung isang x. So meron tayong 2. Then, since we have both numerator and denominator ng x minus 2, cancel lang siya. Then, yung final natin na limit is, we have the x plus 6 over ng x. And then, ano ulit yung gagawin na natin dito? Kukunin na natin yung value by using yung value natin ng x. Papalitan natin to ng 2. So, we have the 2 plus 6 is 8 over ng value ng 2. 8 divided by 2 is 4. Okay. Next problem. For the indeterminate forms naman tayo. Ayun. So, halos similar to dun sa una nating problem, di ba? Kung ang problem natin is we have the limit x plus 5 over the x squared minus 25, wherein yung value natin ng x is negative 5. Kapag pinalitan natin yung value niya ng 5, negative 5, itong value na to. So, magiging value ng numerator natin is 0. And back naman sa denominator, pag pinalitan natin yung negative 5, yung x natin ng negative 5, ang makukuha natin yung value dito is 0 pa rin. 0 pa rin siya. So, ang ginawa natin dito is, pa-factor ulit natin siya. We have yung sa numerator, hindi na natin siya i-factor kasi x plus 5 naman, wala na tayong pwede i-factor dyan. Pero, sa denominator natin, pwede tayong mag-factor itong part na to. Pwede na natin siyang i-factor. Kapag finactor natin yan, pwede tayong magkaroon ng x minus 5 at saka x plus 5. Then, kapag kinancel na natin itong part na to, so we only have 1 na lang yung value ng numerator natin. Kaya ang limit natin is 1 over x minus 5. So, papalitan lang natin yung value ng x, equal siya sa 1 over negative 10. Then, for our next example, we have yung evaluate the following limit. We have the limit of 2 multiplied by negative 3 plus h raised to 2 minus 18 over ng h natin. And yung value nitong h is 0. So, yun na yung problem natin. For dito, pwede natin siyang, ano ulit yung value natin kanina, babalikan natin. Itong part na to, yung negative 3 plus h squared, pwede natin siyang i-expand. Kaya natin nakuha itong value na to. Ayan. Okay. So, yun dito, we can use yung, ano ba yung, balikan natin yung sa algebraic expression. So, itong part na to, di ba meron tayong formula before na A minus ng B squared. Ayan. So, yung ito is yung h natin is magiging A, and then yung 3 natin is magiging B. Familiar kayo dito sa formula na to before sa senior high school yata to or ano? Ang magiging pag nilong method natin to, we have yung A natin squared plus yung B squared natin minus ng 2AB. Naalala? Naalala niyo yung problem na yan? Or I mean yung shortcut na to sa algebra nyo? Kapag ginamit natin to, itong formula na to, wherein yung mismo magiging value ng A natin is yung H, and yung value ng B natin is negative 3, makukuha natin itong value na to. For example, sabi natin, yung a natin is yung h. So we have yung h squared. So ito yon. Same as yung sa a raised to 2. Sabi naman natin, yung b squared. Ito. So kapag ni-raise to 2 natin to, or equivalent siya sa negative 3 times na negative 3, ano yung magiging value? Sabi natin, negative 3 times negative 3 is, 3 times 3 is yung 9. And sabi natin, we have yung 2AB. 2AB. We have yung 2, di ba? Ano yung A natin? H. So ito yon, yung H na to. And yung value ng 3 natin. So we have the 2 times yung 3 is yung 6. 6. Ito po. Dito na tayo sa 2AB. Yan. Kapag in-apply natin itong a raised to 12 plus b squared minus 2ab, makukuha natin itong value ng 9 minus 6h plus h squared. Ayan. So, after nun, kapag nakuha na natin siya, since dito is meron tayong parehong value lang, wala siyang h. We have yung 18 at yung 18 din dito. Pwede na natin siyang i-minus. So, 18 minus ng 18 is 0. So, mawawala na tong 18. Kaya tayo nagkaroon ng negative 12h plus 2h squared over ng h natin. Okay? Okay? Okay. And after nun, kagaya lang ng ginagawa natin kanina, isa-substitute lang natin yung value. Pero bago natin i-substitute, pwede pa natin tong, since meron tayong pareho pa rin dito, may h tayo sa denominator at saka sa numerator, pwede natin siyang ilabas ulit, which is yung h natin is ito. So yung 12 natin, negative 12h. So magiging negative 12 na lang. Yung 2h squared natin, magiging 2h na lang. So after nun, kakancel na natin to, then ika-cancel na natin yung denominator natin na h. So we have here yung naiwan na lang, we have the negative 12 plus 2h. Then papalitan natin siya ng value ng 0, we have the negative 12. Next. For the next problem, we have yung limit t minus ng square root of 3t plus 4 over ng 4 minus t, where yung t natin is equal sa 4. Ayan. So dito, same lang, gagamit din tayo ng algebraic expression na sabi is algebraic formula, which yung a plus b natin multiplied by a minus b is equivalent sa a squared minus b squared. So itong problem natin is pareho natin siyang i-multiply sa numerator natin. Kaya tayo nagkaroon ng value na itong part na to. Ayan. Kung mapapansin nyo, same lang siya dun sa numerator natin. Itong t minus ng square root of 3t plus ng 2 natin, 4, same side, numerator and denominator, i-multiply natin siya. Then kapag na-multiply na natin siya, since ang value, gagamitin natin itong formula na to, so ang may iwan na lang dito is itong value na to. We have the t squared minus ng 3t plus 4 over nung denominator natin na 4 minus t multiplied by t plus square root of 3t plus 4. And then after nun, pwede natin siyang i-factor out. We have yung t minus 4 multiplied by t plus 1 over ng 4 minus t multiplied by t plus square root of 3t plus 4. So ito is yung kagaya lang din na ginagawa natin kanina para makuha itong value na to. Kung mapapansin mo, dito sa part na to is we have yung negative na value. Itong negative sign na to. Kasi yung una nating problem, tingnan mo yung problem natin. Possible na pwede nating i-cancel itong t minus 4 at saka yung 4 minus t. Pero, yung numerator natin is positive. Ang denominator natin is negative. And then ito is negative. Yung 4 naman natin sa baba is negative. So para ma-cancel natin siya, pwede tayo maglagay ng minus sign. Kasi kapag ito, minultiply natin ito, babalik lang siya dun sa negative t, and then ito is magiging positive 4. So, ayan. So, pareho na naman to na meron tayong t minus 4 and t minus 4. Pwede na natin silang i-cancel. Kaya yung next natin, we have the t plus 1 over ng negative times ng t plus square root of 3t plus 4. Then, papalitan lang natin ng value gamit yung value natin ng 4, which is yung t natin. Makuha natin yung value ng negative 5 over 8. So, one side limits natin. We have here yung, i-discuss natin yung left side at saka right side. So, ano ba yung muna yung one side limits natin? Sabi dito, limits of the form, limit or yung f of x natin is equal sa L where we have the x approaching A are called two-sided limits since the values of x get close to A from both the right and the left side of A, where yung limits which consider the values of x on only one side of A are called the one-sided limit. Ayan. So, ang pinagkaiba, i-discuss natin yung right hand at saka yung left hand na limit natin. Ang difference lang naman nila is itong sign na to. Kung mapapansin mo kanina, yung mga sign, yung mga pinakita natin kanina is wala siyang positive. Diba? Pero for the right hand side, ang gagamitin natin, we have the limit of f of x equals sa L where yung x natin is approaching ng A based sa positive side. Ibig sabihin lang nito, for example, we have yung x natin is 4. So, greater than 4 yung magiging value. Ayun yung titignan natin. Kasi, ang sabi natin, we have yung from the right, yung x natin is greater than the a. So, for example, sabi natin, x natin is, yung value ng a natin dito is 4. So, possible na we have 4.2, 4.5, or even 5. Then for the left hand naman, for the right hand, we have the positive, and then for the left hand, we have the negative. So dito naman, kung kanina, we have yung greater than the value, or yung x natin is greater than a, dito naman yung x natin is less than a. Kanina sabi ko, di ba, kung ang value natin ng 4 is ang magiging value natin dun is 4.3, 4.5. Dito naman is mas mababa sa 4. We have the 3.9, 3.5, ganun siya. Okay, ito na. We have yung example natin. So dito meron tayong graph. Ito yung graph natin. Okay, proceed na tayo dito. Yung for dito is gagamitin natin yung meron tayong negative and meron tayong positive. So kapag right hand, gagamit tayo ng positive. Kapag ng left hand naman, gagamit tayo ng negative. So, paano na siya? So, ang problem natin dito, we have yung limit or yung function of x natin is 2, where x is raised to, where x is 5 negative, and yung x natin from the right naman, we have the limit of function of x equals 4, yung x natin is 5. So, paano doon nangyari yun? Sabi natin, mag-start tayo. Ito yung 5 natin, di ba? Ito yung 5. Ito yung 5 natin. Sabi natin, kapag dito, ano ulit yung rule natin? X is, kapag left, ano yung x ulit natin? Dapat ay
negative.
Less than yung a. Value, tama? Samantalang dito, we have yung x is greater than the value of a. Okay. Mag-isip tayo ng value ng less than ng 5 para makuha natin itong limit natin ng approaching yung negative. So, dito siya, itong part na to. Itong part na to, yung left hand ng 5, kasi sabi natin is mas mababa siya. So, saan ba siya approaching? Itong line na to, for example, sinabi natin is 1. Meron tayong, kunwari, dito itong value na tong x na to is 4. Nakatapat siya sa 5, sa 1. So, itong line na to, approaching siya until dito sa, kapag nag-reach na tayo ng 5, is ano yung value natin? Itong part na to. So, we have yung
2.
value ng 2. So, sabi natin, x approaching 5 or yung negative natin, we have yung value ng 2. Okay. The next naman natin, sa right naman natin, we have yung value natin is greater than 5. Ano ba yung mga greater than 5? So, pwede tayo dito, itong part na to. For example, itong part na to ay value natin is 6. Itong part na to is 6. Kunwari lang dito is value natin is, we have yung 7 for example. Yung approaching niya, papunta ng 5, habang lumalapit siya sa 5, ito yung graph niya. So kapag nag-approach siya ng 5, ano yung magiging value ng f of x natin?
4 po, ma'am.
Have yung,
4.
ito, 4. Okay. Kaya nakuha natin itong value na to. Pero, may rule tayo. Yung rule natin dito sa limit, kapag yung approaching natin or yung value natin ng negative and positive is not equal, ibig sabihin, yung limit na yun is hindi siya nag-exist. Since ang f of x natin, ang f of x is 2, and yung value ng f of x here natin is 4, and yung 2 is not equal sa 4, itong limit natin is hindi siya nag-exist. So, sabi dito, for a full limit to exist, both one-side limits have to exist and they have to be equal. Since hindi siya equal, hindi equal yung 2 sa 4, hindi nag-exist yung limit dito. Okay? So, next natin na problem. Next problem natin is we have yung limit where yung f of x natin is 5 and yung x approaching natin is negative 2. Negative. So, left hand to. And we have the limit f of x is equal to 5. We have yung x is also negative 2, which is yung right hand natin kasi positive siya. So, start natin dito sa part ng left hand natin. For example, we have yung, ito yung negative 2. Itong part na to yung negative 2 natin. Yan. Ito yung negative 2 natin. So, kapag nag-approach na siya, itong part na to, sa left hand, ito dito tayo titingin. Ano yung, for example, nag-start tayo ng negative 3. Negative 3, itong negative 3 na to. Possible, nandito siya, yung line na to. Itong line na to is saan siya itong point na to? Saan siya tatapat? Halos dito. Halos before pa siya mag-5, no? So kapag nag-approach na siya sa negative 2, ito yung negative 2 natin. Ano yung magiging value natin? Possible na 5.
Negative 5 po, ma'am.
Itong 5 na to. So we have yung value natin na limit ng left hand or yung x is negative 2. We have yung negative 5. What if doon naman tayo sa right hand side, itong part na to. For example, we have the negative 1. Negative 1 yung kukunin natin. Negative 1, ito yung part na to. So, parang nasa 5.9 siya, di ba? So, approaching sa negative 2, we have the value as, kasi pababa pa rin siya. Same lang siya ng value ng negative 5. Same lang siya na 5 at 5. Tama ba? Kasi dito pa rin siya. Dito pa rin sa point na to. So, yung sabi natin, kapag yung value is pareho sa negative, sa left hand, at saka sa positive or yung right hand, ibig sabihin nag-e-exist siya. So, in this case, yung limit natin ng x, negative 2 is 5. Okay. May question? May question ba? Okay na, proceed na tayo. So next naman is, for example, ang gagamitin natin is positive 4. Ito yung positive 4 naman natin, itong part na to. Kung gagamitin natin yung value ng negative 4, I mean left hand side, dito tayo mag-start. For example, ang value natin is 3. Itong line na to, straight line. So nasa possible, nasa 6.5 siya. Then pag nag-approach siya sa 4, so ang magiging value natin is, f of x natin is 7. So kaya ito nakuha, 7. For approaching naman ng right hand side, we have yung, mag-start tayo for example sa 5. Itong 5. So approaching naman siya, itong point na to, papunta ng 4. So yung itong part na to is katapat siya ng 2. Kaya meron tayo dito 2. So yung 7, we have yung 7 and yung 2. Left hand side natin is 7 and yung right hand side natin is 2 is not equal. Kaya yung limit natin ng f of x where x is 4 does not exist.
Opo, ma'am.
Tama pag yung value natin ng left hand side at right hand side is not equal, hindi nag-exist yung limit na yon. Pero kung kagaya nitong problem natin sa una, yung f of x natin ng left hand side at f of x natin ng right hand side is parehong 5, nag-exist yung limit na yan. Okay?
Opo, gets ka na po, ma'am.
Ayan, medyo paiba yung ito. Next naman natin dito is, we have yung set of f of x is equal sa x over ng absolute value ng x. Note that yung f of x natin is 1 for x is greater than 0 and f of x natin is equal sa negative 1 for x is less than 0. So yung f of x na given dito, kapag 1 daw siya, meron tayong x is greater than 0. Kapag negative 1 naman, meron tayong f is less than 0. So yan. Yung same lang din naman siya doon sa ginawa natin kanina. Titignan lang din naman natin kung saan siya mag-fall. So apply yung limit ng process at different numbers. So if a is less than 0, then for all the x sufficiently close to a, then x is less than 0. Then yung f of x natin is negative 1. So ito yung follows yung rule lang natin. So ito. Limit lang siya. So limit of function of x, for example, yung negative 1, since ito naman yung given natin, we have the negative 1. Kaya yung limit of negative 1 natin, pinalitan lang natin siya is negative 1. Yan, example lang siya. Okay? Then, for example, if yung a natin is greater than 0, then all of x sufficiently close to a. And then yung x natin is greater than 0 and f of x natin is 1. It follows that for a is less than 0. So, ibig sabihin daw, yung limit of f of x is yung limit ng 1 natin, which is equivalent lang siya sa 1. And then yung function has no limit as x tends to 0. So, ito na yun. So, if we have the value ng x is 0, approaching naman siya, we have yung negative 1. And kapag meron naman tayo dito na 0 positive, we have the 1. So, pwede natin din balikan dun yung sa graph. Same lang yun sa first example natin and na last example. Kapag negative natin ulit is left hand side, kapag positive is right hand side. Okay?
Opo.
Ito naman, yung next natin na example. We have yung e-examine natin, the behavior of f of x close to 3 and close to 7. So for example, ang hinahanap natin is itong 3. Itong 3 na to. Itong 3. Ito yung line natin ng 3, di ba? So dito naman, sa 3, sabi natin, ang kukunin natin is left hand side. So ito yon, yung less than 3. Ito, di ba, yung negative natin. For example, we have yung value natin is 2. For example lang, ito siya. Pero yung approaching ng line natin is saan siya papunta? Hindi siya possible na ano siya, di ba? Infinite or dire-diretso lang yung line natin, hindi tayo tutuloy dito sa 3 natin. So, ito is does not exist na rin siya. Kasi, yung line natin is, ito yung 3 natin, and wala tayong makukuha value na exactly 3. And yung line natin is tuloy-tuloy lang siya pataas. Same din dito sa side na to, itong part na to, sa right-hand side naman natin. For example, ang value natin dito is 4. For example, ito yung 4 natin. Kapag kukunin natin yung 3 or yung closest sa 3, yung line natin is tuloy-tuloy lang din. So, wala siyang value. What if naman ito yung 7 naman? Approaching, ito yung 7 natin. Same lang siya. For example, ang value natin dito is we have yung 6 sa left-hand side. So, meron tayong 6 dito. Ang graph natin is pababa. And hindi rin siya exactly sa 7. So, wala tayong makukuhang value dito. Or does not exist pa rin siya. Kasi ito yung line natin ng 7 eh. Pero yung graph natin, continue lang siya. Same as sa right-hand side natin. For example, ang right-hand side natin is nag-start tayo ng 8. Approaching tayo ng 7. Yung line natin is taas-taas din siya. So, does not exist pa rin yung value natin. Kasi wala tayong makukuha ang value in both ng approaching ng 3 at approaching ng 7. Either left-hand side siya, left or right hand. Ayan. As a summary lang, hindi na-discuss ko na nga kanina, yung limit of function of x where x is 7 does not exist. So, next nating example is yung meron lang tayo dito ng set of f of x time. We have the pi over ng x and show that the functions of we have no limit as x. So, dito, yung function natin is pinapakita lang yung x natin is equal sa 0 and irrelevant yung mismong value natin dito. Ayan siya. Ang pinapakita is yung mismong paggamit ng limit sin x over ng x natin. So, kagaya kanina, pwede natin gamitin yung left-hand side and right-hand side. And ang pinapakita lang naman dito is yung theorem natin for sin x over ng x. So, itong isang example natin, we have yung limit of 0, sin x over x is equivalent siya sa 1. Same lang din kanina, kapag meron tayong 0 approaching ng left-hand side, hahanapin natin siya, yung 1 natin, and sa positive din na side, sa right-hand side. Same lang din siya sa kanina. Okay na yan. Ito is halos lang din siya kanina. Ayan, ito na lang. For the limits involving the piecewise function, we have the given function as g of y. We have yung value ng y raised to 2 plus 5 if y is less than negative 2, and we have the 1 minus ng 3y if y is greater than or equal sa negative 2. So, yung i-compute daw natin is we have the limit of g of y where yung y natin is 6. And for the b, we have the limit of g of y, we have the y negative 2. So, for the computation, we have here yung limit of g of y, ito lang din siya, approaching ng 6 natin. So, yung limit of 1 natin is equivalent lang din siya sa 1. And then, dito is minus ng 3y. Itong y na to is papalitan lang natin siya ng value ng 6. So, 6 times ng 3. And yung 6 times ng 3, yun na yun. Yung magiging value natin. So, we have the 1 minus 6. 3 times ng 6 is we have the negative 17. The next naman natin for the limit of g of y where we have the negative 2. Ito yung negative 2 natin. We can use yung sa limit ng positive, left hand side, I mean negative negative for the left-hand side, and we have the negative 2 for the right-hand side pa rin. And ayan na siya. So, we have the limit of y raised to 2 plus 5, where yung limit natin is negative 2, negative. And for the limit of g of y, limit of 1 minus 3, we have the y minus 2, or the positive, we have yung value ng, for the left-hand side, we have yung 9, and for the right-hand side, we have yung 7 natin. Okay, may question? Okay, proceed na tayo. Okay. Okay. So, dito naman, same lang din sa na-discuss ko kanina. Since meron tayong value ng 9 and we have the value of 7, since hindi pareho yung value natin from the left-hand side and right-hand side, not equal siya. So, yung value kanina is does not exist, or yung limit natin is does not exist. Okay. Dito naman, we have yung find the limit of f of x, where x natin is positive 2, and we have the limit of negative 2 negative x of x. Find f of x, x plus 6, if x is greater than 2, and 5 is, x is 2, and 1 over x, x squared, x is greater than 2. Sige po. So, ito na yung magiging last example natin. Dito sa part na to, since meron naman tayo na x is less than 2, possible na gagamitin natin dito is yung limit ng left-hand side. Samantalang dito, we have yung right-hand side. We have here yung 2, itong part na to, ito yung 2. Kapag sinabi natin na less than, ito yung line na to, itong part na to. Approaching siya sa 2. And possible na magiging value niya is yung 8, itong part na to. Yan, yung f of x natin is 8. For dito naman, we have yung greater than 2. Ito naman siya, itong line na to. Approaching ng 2. Ito to, itong line na to. And possible na value niya is itong part na to. Possible na 2. Ayan. So, yung function natin, we have yung sa x2 or right-hand side natin is yung value na 2. And for the negative or yung left-hand side natin is value na 8.